This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Welcome to Your Radiant Spirit, a podcast about noticing the sacred in ordinary life. I'm Heather Eck, an abstract artist, writer, and lifelong seeker. Through conversations with artists, healers, spiritual teachers, writers, and everyday people, we explore the quiet ways that God, beauty, healing, and mystery reveal themselves in our lives. Each episode invites you to slow down, pay attention, and consider the moments that often go unnoticed. We'll talk about creativity, faith, intuition, healing, purpose, relationships, and the questions that shape a meaningful life. I don't believe we need all the answers, but I do believe we need to become better at noticing. Whether you're walking through loss, searching for direction, nurturing your creativity, or simply longing for a deeper connection with the sacred, I hope these conversations remind you that grace is often closer than we think. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome back to Your Radiant Spirit. You might notice something just a little bit different today. We have a new introduction to the show, and that feels more fitting to me because a lot of my work is about noticing what's beneath the surface, noticing quiet moments, noticing where beauty and mystery and grace, and maybe even where God are showing up in the middle of our very ordinary lives. And I think that's what I've always hoped this podcast could be, which is a place where we can slow down for a little while and pay attention to the things that we might otherwise miss that are all around us all the time. So I hope you like that new intro and outro today. Let me know what you think in the comments. With that in mind, I'm really excited about today's conversation. My guest is Laurel Brooke, a writer, storyteller, and guide who helps people reconnect with their creativity, their deeper calling, and the stories that they're living. And she has a very fascinating story of her own. She spent a lot of years knowing that she wanted to become a writer, but also finding just about every possible reason not to do it. And then after a series of profound experiences, she made a commitment to finally pursue the book she had always dreamed of writing. This is such a phenomenal story. I love the synchronicities and the, coincidences that you will see in this story. It's so fantastic. She's got some really fascinating practices around working with the nervous system, creating a sense of safety around creativity. And I found so much of this conversation is applicable not just to writers, but to anyone who's ever felt called to make, create, change, or step into something that really matters to you. Well, I hope you like the episode. Let's get into it. Laurel, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to finally connect with you.
Same.
Tell us who you are, what you do, and how you help people.
Absolutely. So I have wanted to be a published author my entire life. This is my childhood dream. And I have continually let other things get in the way of that. I'm 41 now. I just turned 41 last week.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And something a couple years ago, it's actually now more like 5 years ago, I made a commitment to myself in a way that I haven't before. And I did a ceremony. I also do ceremonies and rituals, and I work with the equinoxes and solstices and cross quarter days and the directions. And I committed to my soul's mission. And I asked for clear guidance on what that is and to line me up with it. And over the next year, I then had 4 near-death experiences, one in each season. And I didn't really realize these were happening seasonally or that they were connected to some kind of larger initiation process. Now I can look back and see that after the final one, the next day, I felt called to start writing a book. And I've been on and off as a writer. I own a small business. For a while, I did professional tarot reading. I helped produce a yoga and music festival. I've kind of been all over. I was a professional photographer for a while, doing a lot of things except for writing, which is my soul's mission. But I had so much fear and resistances around that I continually let myself get close to it and then get pushed away and then get close to it and pushed away. And it after these experiences, I had started writing again, and I really felt like I am going to publish a book. I don't know what book, but this is what I've always wanted, and I'm making that my number one priority. And so I went out and I did a ritual in the woods in this small mountain town I live in, and I called for the story that wants to move through me, that's a match for my voice, that wants to live and breathe on the earth again, to inspire and connect people to their wholeness and to right relation with the earth. Those are kind of my big missions, connecting with yourself and then connecting with others and the planet. Uh, and within a month, I was handed this story that's an Arthurian legend that I'd never heard of before. And it has now led me on this 3-year journey of writing this book. And it's taken me to England twice and connected me with other authors. And it's been this wild ride. And along the way, I've been learning why it's taken me so long to get back to writing and ways to work with my fears and with my nervous system that allow me to write and to meet with you and to share and to market and to do all these things that I've been too frightened to do. So that's what I'm turning around and offering to people at this time is um, that thing we call writer's block or uh, whatever it is that's pushing you from your dreams. There's actually a way to manually hack your flight, freeze response in a practice that I offer.
Oh my gosh, is that your meditation?
That's the meditation.
Sovereign breath?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I didn't have time to do it the whole thing before we hopped on, but I downloaded it and I listened to a few minutes of it. And so, number one, your voice is so soothing. So, listeners, you're going to want to grab that meditation. And then number two, I just took a bunch of notes, so I've got a lot of questions for you.
Okay. Yeah, I talked a lot.
No, it was great. It was great. So I think I want to go here first, which is to say, it is very rare for someone to have one near-death experience, let alone four. And so I feel like you've been granted a tremendous experience that has helped you, obviously, to overcome, like you said, writer's block. I would say, like to release fear and to be able to move forward with your soul's mission. But I also want to ask you about your childhood because you mentioned you had a dream to become a writer even as a young person. And if you've listened to the show, you know I love to hone in on what people are like as kids because that almost always informs what we do in adulthood, even if we take a really wild, path to get there. So I'll leave it to you. Where would you like to start?
Um, oh gosh. Well, something you said just resonated, which is in a new way, which I do think that the near death experiences were ways of processing fear
Mhm.
through my body and kind of learning how to master that in a physical way. And I hadn't actually quite thought of it in those terms until now. And I hope that other people don't have to experience that, and I can just pass that learning on. But
We'll get to
yeah,
experience it through your story, but hopefully none of us have to go through that.
yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah. So there's that piece, and then to go to childhood. In my childhood, I was reading books and writing them. Even before I could write, I would dictate to my mom, and she would write stories down. So I was constantly writing stories. However, I didn't have the happiest child or most supportive childhood or upbringing. And somewhere around along the way, maybe by 10, 11, 12, I had stopped writing entirely and felt that this was unobtainable for me.
Yeah. I don't think that that is it. I think a lot of people feel that way, myself included, feeling like,
Mm.
oh, I'm here to be an artist and I'm meant to create. And then there's something that happens and you sort of go, no, that's not possible for me. I must choose a more practical path and then go down that
Exactly.
practical path until you finally reach this, what I would call like the dark night of the soul, or you have this experience where you're like, I, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm here to be doing. And there's got to be more to life than this. And so it sounds like your NDEs were really an opener for you to say, I'm here. I want to do what I've been called here to do. Is that right?
Yes, I think that's a great way of putting it. Uh, there's been several times where I've had those dark nights and I've been asking myself, what do I want to do? And I've always known the answer is right, but accepted this belief that I can't be a writer. I could be anything else but that.
Mm.
For whatever reason, that's, is absorbed when you're in when you're in childhood, you're kind of in this hypnotic state and you believe things. So I believed that and then would slowly start gravitating back to it. And I started a blog in my 20s that helped me write again. And then I stopped and I focused on work and practical things. And then I started going back to writing and then again I stopped. Um, so whatever has happened now, it seemed to take that commitment from me. I'm not going to abandon you again,
Mm.
is is what I'm telling my younger self and my future self and myself now.
Hmm. And that's such a nice commitment to make to your spirit to say, I'm here with you. Let's do it together. And to commit to being able to fulfill that mission that you have. And so for the last 3 years or so, you've been working on this beautiful novel. Can you tell us a little bit about it and the poem that inspired it and your inspiration for all of that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Um, it started with Selkies, actually. My friend started telling me the story about Selkies. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not. No, I'd love to hear
Oh,
about it.
okay. So Selkies are, it's more Irish, but it's from the British Islands, and they are seals who turn into women. And there's a famous story that, or the most common myth associated with Selkies is about these sisters who the seals come ashore and they're frolicking on the shoreline, and a man is watching them. And when they become women, their seal skins become coats. And so the coats are lying there on the beach. And this man goes and grabs one. And then the women go back, put their coats on, turn back into seals, except for one who's left there. The man says, I'll give you your coat back if you promise to be my wife for 7 years. She does so. After 7 years, the coat has disintegrated and she can no longer return to her kin. So it's a sad story.
Hmm.
And it's about giving up that, like, your true self, your true nature, and the wild essence of you to conform, among other things. So my friend is telling me this story, and I was thinking, there are so many stories that are these cautionary tales for women where men are these predators. And a lot of myths and a lot of folklore, in our wildest imaginations, there's still this motif over and over as man as predator. And where are the stories that are actually showing men as supportive of women and supportive of life and all genders and equality and is do we have any of those myths? And if not, we should start making them. And there's more stories out there today that are offering models, but I think a big part of how we've gotten here is that so many of our models and the stories that we look to are not offering us the most expansive
Yeah.
blueprints. And I'm a really big proponent of sacred storytelling, of like figuring out what story you're living and writing the story that you want to live. So I asked that question of where are the old myths that are more positive and con- collaboration between genders. And my friend handed me this book, and it's called When Women Rise Rooted by Sharon Blackie. And she says, I don't know, but I found this Selkie story in this book if you're interested in reading about it. And I just opened it to a page, and the page was The Marriage of Sir Gawain and Dame Raniel. And it's an Arthurian story. And I start reading it, and it's exactly what I asked for. It shows this model of this man, Sir Gawain, respecting a woman's choice over her body. And it was written in the 1400s, and it's super empowering. So I'll just pause there, but I could tell more about the story. So that's the origin of how I found this.
Okay. I love that. And how serendipitous that you opened the book right to that story too. So you must have been like, okay, okay, universe.
Yeah. Yeah. So I sat down and started reading this story, and in it, King Arthur is alone in a forest, and he's attacked by this mystery knight who says, you stole my lands. I'm going to kill you. And he's like, no, please don't. And then the knight says, okay, you're right. I won't kill you. Instead, I'll give you a quest to solve. And the quest is you have to figure out what women desire most above all else. And you have a year and a day. And if you can come back and give me the answer, then I'll let you live. And Arthur agrees to this. So off he goes, and he's pretty sad because he doesn't know the answer to this question. And his nephew, Sir Gawain, is like, why are you so bummed out? What's going on? And he explains, and Gawain is like, no problem. We got this. Let's find the answer. They go out and they start interviewing people all across the land, asking what do women most desire? And they're getting all kinds of answers like a hunting falcon of one's own, and nice clothes, and a good husband, and like 3 meals a day. And they're writing these all down, and they fill 2 books with potential answers. Now, Arthur is alone again in a forest because he hasn't learned, and he comes across this woman who is described as monstrously hideous, but also wearing a beautiful golden dress. But she has tusks and snot running down her face, and she's misshapen and very, very ugly, and according to the story. And he pauses, and she says, I know the quest that you're on, and I know the answer to it. And I will tell you if you promise to marry me to your nephew, Sir Gawain. Arthur, to his credit, is like, I can't make promises on his behalf. Also, you're really ugly, insults her to her face. But I'll see what I can do, because I don't want to die. So he goes back to his nephew and presents this. And the nephew is like, absolutely, I'll marry her, of course, and agrees to do so. So there's this wedding between Gawain and this woman whose name is Raniel, and everyone in court is weeping to see Gawain marrying her. But he treats her with every courtesy and kindness. And then when they get alone in their rooms, he closes the door, turns around. She's a beautiful woman. And she says, You've broken the spell I was under by treating me kindly and respectfully. So now a choice is before you. You can have me like this, beautiful, by day, and I'll be back to my hideous troll appearance at night, or reverse, and I'll be beautiful just for you at night and hideous in court to everyone else during the day. What's it going to be? He's like, wow, this is really tough. But actually, this is already better than I thought it was going to be. Why are you asking me? You should decide. It's your body. It's your choice. Whichever one I'll be happy with. Let me know what you choose. And then she says, okay, now you've broken the spell for good. And I'm beautiful all the time. Then she tells Arthur the answer to the riddle, which is that women desire sovereignty, freedom. So he goes back to Mystery Night and first reads through all 2 books of the wrong answers. And the knight's like, great, now I get to kill you. And then he says, wait a minute, is it sovereignty? And the knight is like, darn it, did my stupid sister Raniel tell you this answer? She always ruins everything.
Oh my gosh, what must you have thought when you read this? Because it's giving so many different fairy tale stories. I'm like, I feel like Shrek came from this
Mhm.
story.
Yeah, totally Shrek connection. Yeah. So she's it turns out her archetype is called the Loathly Lady. So both hideous and beautiful and Shrek's what was her name again? Why is it escaping
Oh
me?
gosh.
Fiona.
Fiona, yes.
Fiona is totally this archetype. But actually the first question that came to me at the end of this, so that's the end. Arthur is now saved. Gawain and Raniel are married. Was wait a minute. So this mystery knight um was angry at Arthur for stealing his family lands and giving them to Gawain, which I might not have mentioned at the beginning, but that's like why he wants to kill Arthur is because he says, "You've taken my family lands and you've given them to Gawain."
Okay.
Now at the end, his sister is married to Gawain.
Uh-huh.
So, so was this whole story like a series of elaborate hijinks
Yeah,
created by the siblings to get their family lands back?
probably.
Yeah, so I started looking into that and nobody this is a fairly obscure story and nobody else has really taken it at that angle. So to me this is talking about like the indigenous people of the British Islands and land and the in fact the goddess of the land used to be called the sovereignty of the
Oh,
land,
wow.
the
Okay.
sovereignty. So this story which was at the height of Christianity, when women were literally property, seemed to have these codes in it to these older archetypes and older motifs. The There's a common Welsh archetype of a hideous woman who turns beautiful once she's been accepted. And so that's like, you know, beauty is only skin deep and
Mhm.
looking beneath the surface. And then the sovereignty of the land, the goddess of the land, who has always chosen her king. It was the goddess and the queen who chose who her consort would be in the older indigenous British stories. So all that has been changed. But this tale seemed to hold these seeds, even within Christianity, of this older time and of this time where there was this respect and this collaboration, and a different way of approaching the roles, gender roles. So it
Mhm.
fascinated me, and I feel like it's a message that still is relevant today.
Mhm.
So I'm rewriting it in my own voice and using that as a template to spring off and to write something that is inspired by that, but not, it's not going to be a straight retelling of it, but
Okay.
it's exploring all the themes and motifs that I'm interested of, and I'm also weaving in more of the Grail. Is the early Grail stories were also about women. And femininity. So that's been this journey and this deep rabbit hole that I dove into after discovering this book about 3 years ago. I now have studied so many Arthurian and Celtic stories, um, and then also have just been making up my own fantasy world for this book as well.
And the trip that you just returned from allowed you to visit the site of the location for your story, right? And you were able to hold the original poem,
Yes.
which
Uh,
blows my
it-
mind when you think about how many, 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 many years ago it was written.
yes, it was incredible. I had no idea that this poem existed in that format. Uh, but I went to England and I got to go to Sherwood. No, not Sherwood. That's Robin Hood. Um, Inglewood. Inglewood Forest is the forest where the myth is set, and it no longer exists. It used to be a big hunting land just for the king, but the site where it is still, um, you can still get to there. So I actually went there and I sat and I communed with that and with the stories that have come from that place. And I went to Tintagel Castle, which is where they say Arthur was conceived. And I went to Glastonbury, which is where they say Avalon was. So I was tuning into the energies and the stories there. And then I ended in Oxford, where I learned that they have this book in a library, and I was able to apply as an independent researcher and ask to see it and get to actually sit down with the Old English poem, original poem, and even touch it. I thought they would make me wear gloves, but I didn't. I got to just place hands on
Wow.
it, tune into it. And it was profound. My jaw was just dropped the entire time.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially because you seem like somebody who's sensitive to energy too. So I imagine just holding it felt incredible just to kind of take in and perceive the energy that's coming from that book too. That must have been phenomenal.
Yeah, I when I tuned into the energy, I could feel the forest, that it was the forest that was set in and the mysteries that forests contain. And that was the strongest sense I got from it, which
Hmm.
is just curious. As I'm now just getting back, I want to tune in more. And I took a million photos and videos
I was going
to
to ask if you were
reference.
allowed to. Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So how has your life changed since you started this process of researching and writing and diving into this story and the magic that seems to come from it?
Great question. Thank you. My life has changed in profound ways. I have continued to meet people who are writing similar themes, who seem super connected to my soul mission as well. Feels like soul tribe. Like I've been connecting more and more with my soul tribe, and so much magic has unfolded. I had no idea when I began obsessing over Arthurian and Celtic myths that I would go to England. I've been there twice now. And I have now met, I think, 8 different people who are writing books about Selkies.
Oh,
So,
wow.
which is kind a fairly obscure thing. So this that continues to unfold. Uh, 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 there's been a lot of personal changes, and so I guess I could shift now into my nervous system work over the
Yeah,
last
I would
year.
love to know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause as I started doing this, the all of the the fears and the self-limiting beliefs came up, and I started by giving myself 2 hours a week to write this book, and I told people in my life, like, "For these 2 hours, I won't be available unless there's an emergency," and then nothing but emergencies happened in this 2-hour window.
Oh, you're kidding.
Eh, so it but they weren't real emergencies, but it was like everybody was contacting me specifically on that time, and, like, some things were going crazy, and I realized I was still saying, like, "If you need me, I'll be here, but I would like to write my book," instead of now I write my book and making a really clear boundary and giving that
Yeah.
to myself,
Hmm.
and that boundary, that porousness is why I took care of other people's needs, which is it's good to give and take, but also, uh, committing to 2 hours and really holding that and committing to myself, "I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna do this," and then
Hmm.
getting to expand that was very difficult. I had to have one very difficult conversation with somebody, and there isn't really there at least it wasn't for me, just that easy to just switch on to it. I did have to do the work that had been keeping me from it.
Yeah.
And along the way, that work included a lot of panic attacks and those meltdowns where I have all these ideas and then I sit down and I just freeze. And one of the big things I learned was that so your brain views a lot of things as threats that in today's life are not actually threats. Um, but the sympathetic nervous system can only read things as this might cause death. They don't have like mild injury, discomfort. Is this dangerous, which means death, or is it not dangerous? So we have all these triggers for things that seem life-threatening danger that then send us into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn that aren't necessarily that. Uh, so this was happening to me a lot because somewhere along the way I learned I can't be a writer. It's not safe for me to be a writer. It's not safe for me to be seen. And I had to get really, really slow. And I learned that you can actually switch from your sympathetic back to your parasympathetic, which is rest and digest and reason, by doing several things. But you need 3 to 5 minutes, and it can just be breathing, or it could be listening to music, or it could even be doing something like knitting or walking, gardening, as long as it's not something that induces stress. And when you give yourself that 3 to 5 minutes, you'll switch back and then you can continue with your day. So learning this hack along the way really shifted everything because I was making progress, but it was very slow and it was very unsettling. And then I learned this, and it was also slow. And sometimes I would have to pause and meditate for 5 minutes 10 times in an hour of writing. But the more I've done it, the more I have been training my system and rewiring myself to believe that writing is safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing this practice and then wrote 50,000 words the next month once I incorporated this practice.
It was like you created a safety net within your system to be able to write. Um, I think that's so. I just heard somebody else say something similar about this, that we are not currently wired to feel safe in our bodies, given the state of the world that we live in and the amount of information that we have access to and consume each day. And I just thought about what you said, that we perceive some things that are not threats as threats. And instantly I flash back to when I worked in advertising and had my first BlackBerry, and the little red light notification that popped up when I had an email to me was like an anxiety inducing
Oh,
trigger.
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's those little things that I think, and we get hit by those little things, quote unquote, 50,000 times a day. And
Do.
so I can't wait to use your to help calm the nervous system, because I also will sometimes set aside time to paint, get up to the canvas, and then go, I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know what to paint. And then kind of go, well, not today, and then walk away. So sometimes you really do
Yes.
need to calm it all down. But it's also, I think, something very important that you said is the act of creating is also so soothing for us. It calms us
Mm.
down when we're creating. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting started. And then once you sort of break through that barrier, then it can start to flow. Like you said, the 50,000 words in a month, because you created safety to be able to let it come out and let it be.
Beautiful. Yeah, when I started by just setting a timer for 5 minutes, and I noticed usually around 4 minutes that I would start thinking about my book again. So
Okay.
it went from nothing. So there's different things, and learning to recognize the fight, flight, freeze is its own practice. So sometimes I'll be like, "This is stupid. Nobody cares about," and that's actually me in fight mode. Or I'll be like, you know what? Before I write, actually, I should clean my entire house. That's a really good idea. And that's
Been there.
flight. Yeah, that's that's actually flight. Or like before I can write, I need to research 10 million topics. That's flight as well. So note, um, recognizing it, and it can be very subtle, and then actually setting the timer. And I was doing this so often that I made myself a meditation, which is what I now offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say is this has shifted everything in my life too. I feel like I have so much more access to do things because there were so many triggers. Just like I used to also be triggered anytime my phone lit up.
Yeah.
Because it could be anything. You don't, it could be the
Yep.
news. It could be somebody you don't want to hear from. Um, and so our systems are constantly receiving these shocks, and it takes a lot of time and it takes very soothing activities to switch out once you're in the sympathetic nervous system. So having this manual hack and then recognizing when it happens and just stopping for 5 minutes has actually freed me up in so many ways throughout my life too, because there's so many subtle triggers that we're dealing with in the world today.
Yeah, absolutely. You just reminded me too. I was thinking about when I went to France for 2 weeks to paint. I was there for an artist residency. And it took me a couple days to really get comfortable with having the time and the space and the freedom to just paint. And I was thinking about it this morning. I was cleaning my brushes, which was probably a flight response because I thought, well, I got to straighten up everything before I start a new thing. And I remembered thinking, going down into the studio each morning, I really had to sort of convince myself, I'll say, or allow myself to just be in the studio and begin painting. It was like I had to
Mhm.
say, what else is there but to paint? And I think that a lot of us don't give ourselves time or space or permission to just take up an activity that doesn't require anything except our presence in the moment. And that's such a beautiful gift to offer ourselves. It's one of the reasons why tell people like any crochet or paint or go for a walk or cook or chop vegetables or play piano or anything that kind of gets you into a space where you can just sort of be present. Um, and calm things down is so healing for you if you just allow yourself to do it.
Yes, absolutely. I love the many of my yoga teachers have said, "You're on the mat," at the beginning of the class, that so you've already won. Like, you just need to show up on the mat.
Yeah.
And so much of it is, can we just show up? Can we step in
Yes.
front of the canvas? Can I sit at the computer? And then that's one practice. And then the next is, can I now let myself enjoy this activity? And I think being really compassionate with yourself when we've so been trained out of being artists, or that artists are attainable, and like our society has all kinds of limiting beliefs about
Yeah.
artistry. Um, it's some part of me would really try. All I have to do is push a button now on my phone and my meditation starts. And then I know I can sit down and I'll feel more open and more creative on the other side. But my brain will be like, you're not in freeze mode. Don't push that button. You, what you need to do is wash the dishes. And
Uh-huh.
I will, it can be so, the programming is so intense. So the more compassionate we can be with ourselves, and the more we can, if just being present with yourself in any small way
Mhm.
really does create a practice, and it really does grow.
Yeah, I love that. So is that your practice, is to sit down and start your writing sessions with the meditation?
Yes. I sometimes I actually, will get going these days, and then like a block will come up and I'll drop into a meditation, and I'll see if more writing wants to arrive, or if maybe a different, if there is like editing that wants to happen. But the process now, now I wake up and I write from 7 to 9 every day. And then I also have a day job I need to go to. But um, building the structure for me, the structure and the container of having the space and knowing that I have that time has been so essential to the process.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
So,
every artist is different. W-
yeah,
For me, it's been structure.
structure. I hear that, and I hear discipline a lot of times is
Mm.
just to, I mean, I would say like gentle discipline, but finding a way to make it a part of your day to day. So that when those things pop up, and for me, it's the laundry because my studio is right next to the laundry room. So I pass it on my way and I just kind of peek in and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much laundry in there. I should probably fold that first and finish watching the Testaments while I do that. And then maybe I'll, but so I really have to, discipline is a tough thing for me. But so I really do try to do my painting practice first. Otherwise, I'll just sit at my computer all day long. And then at the end of the day, I think, oh, I'm an artist though, and I didn't art anything today. Um, but I love that. I love how gentle your approach is too. So tell us, you also have a free community space for folks who are exploring um, mythic living. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I love myths. I love storytelling. I love nerding out on archetypes and old stories. And I really care about bringing consciousness to stories. Is this story helpful to me? There's as we consume so much, and there's so much entertainment out there, even in little snippets of videos. Is this feeding my soul? Is this nourishing me? And becoming more aware of the symbols and the themes and the stories that you tell yourself and that are around you. So that space is to uh, it's it's mythic, but it's also mundane. It's what's happening. I guess like looking at the day to day from a more mythic perspective. What's the archetype that I'm embodying right now, and is that what I want to be?
Hmm.
What story do I want to tell about my life?
Oh, I love that. So tell people where they can find you online and how they can connect with you in the mythic living community and get your sovereign breathing meditation too.
Yes. So you can join my newsletter and get the free Sovereign Breath download. And you can find me on Facebook under Mythic Living. Everything is on my website, laurelbrooke.com, and it leads to everywhere there. And I'm on the social media platforms as well.
Amazing. And I don't know if you've said, do you have a an estimated publication date for your book yet, or you're
I,
still in the process? You'll let us know.
I will let you know I'm still in the process. I hope to have it completed this year, and one tentative date would be the spring equinox of 2027.
Oh,
But I I'm hoping for that, but I have found out that this process is just processing. It's on its own journey.
mhm.
And I've had several times where I thought that the end was in sight, and then the story twisted and turned and had more to reveal. So I'm still on the ride.
Amazing. Well, we will be here
Thank you.
cheering you on, and we can't wait to celebrate the release when it happens. And I will include all of your info in the show notes so folks can find and work with you. And I just
Beautiful.
want to say thank you so much for being here. I've loved chatting with you. You have such a soothing, gentle presence and energy. And I just love it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way about you, and it's been such a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Your Radiant Spirit. If this conversation gave you something to think about, I'd love for you to let me know, and I'd love to stay connected. Subscribe to Your Radiant Spirit wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you like the show, take a moment to rate and review. It helps more people discover our conversations. I'd love to continue the conversation with you beyond the podcast. You can visit me at heathereck.com for updates from my studio, new artwork, and the things I've been noticing lately, along with more stories, reflections, and ways to explore the sacred in ordinary life. Until next time, my friend, keep looking closely. You never know what you might notice. Take care.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.